Welcome back, ladies and gents. I hope you're all having an excellent day. In today's analysis, we're going to be getting into the Bitcoin charts. As usual, also taking a look at Chainlink and Ethereum. I want to share with you my thoughts on the lower time frames, the higher time frames, take a look at some trading opportunities as Bitcoin has had quite a nice rise to the upside here. So we're going to be getting into all of that in today's video. As you guys know, I respect your time and also mine. So we're going to be getting into this straight away here. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So starting off here on the 4-hour time frame, this is what we've been focusing on recently and really since we've been inside of this range, as it has given us some very nice trades. Now we had a bearish order block here from the 21st of June. If you've been following along with the videos, you already know about this. But we did speak about a trading opportunity here as we started to see this rejection from the price action. Now, we spoke about a long opportunity, of course, as once this region does break, we look at this as a buying region, as resistance does become support, and we can look at that as a nice bouncing area. Now, we did end up slightly front running that, and obviously with such critical regions, you will get these front runs. So that was about a 0.59% front run off the top of the order block here. And we did end up reclaiming the R2 here, the weekly R2 at $37,175 and started to move to the upside from there. So as we can see here, that thus far is an 8.6% move to the upside. So very nice to see indeed. We'll get into our trades as well towards the end of the video, but I do have some entries since I did get front run on the trades that I spoke about here. I did end up basically longing the reclaim of the R2, and on some lower time frames we had some very nice opportunities, and my entry sits around 37,100. So we'll go through that, but ultimately our regions have been looking very, very good, reclaiming the weekly R2 with some, nice bullish candles coming in here, a little bit of a hammer candle and a small, bullish engulfing candle here. Very nice to see that we did reclaim that resistance and now moving to the upside. But we are back at that critical resistance. So if we go ahead and put this on our charts, we can see that we do have a resistance at $40,571. That is the resistance that we did end up rejecting from on the 27th of July. And so that would make it a critical region to actually surpass. Once we can actually surpass that region, then I'd be looking at some high targets. Now, high targets would, of course, be still the range highs. Firstly, actually, would be around the 16th of June highs here, as there is a lot of liquidity there. So that would be exactly at $41,338. And the absolute most important resistance is the top of our range since the 20th of May. That is at $42,443. Now, if we take this out back even more, we have our January highs as well inside of this region. This is the reaccumulation formation that we got before our move to the upside. So therefore, this is still a very important region. Price action has been respecting this region. Before we went to all-time highs as well, we had a resistance support flip here. Did front run it slightly, but ultimately that makes an important region to be definitely watching for trading opportunities. I mean, we could be looking at the same thing here. So once that resistance is broken, remember, this order block right here, we look for a, we don't buy the highs here. We'll look for the price to come back to an average, and we did come back to that average, and we got that resistance support flip off the order block. So getting a resistance support flip off the highs here, that would be the important trade I would be looking at in terms of longs if you did miss the opportunities that we had already spoken about a little bit lower inside of this range. But what I want to focus on here is the 1 day, as we did speak about the 1 day resistance here on the stochastic, and that was a resistance that has been holding us since the all-time highs. And so that was, on the peaks of the market. But what I had mentioned was we went onto the CME chart, and the CME chart was looking much different. We had actually gotten a very strong closure here. If we look at our exponential moving averages, we can see we got a closure above the 55 EMA and slightly below the 89 EMA here. And the CME chart still had a lot of, momentum to the upside. Basically, it had room to the upside on our momentum oscillator here on the stochastic, and that was shown by us finding acceptance back above where my cursor is, which would be the neutral zone. So getting above that region, that gives us a very nice area to be watching. Now, there is an aggressive trend line that we'd be looking at here since the 19th of February. This has stopped some highs in the market as well. So that would be actually around this region here. When it started to form on our highs on the 19th of February, we did make one more push up here from $57,000, but that was ultimately a rejection of around 23%. We saw the same thing on the all-time highs, and so CME is finally reaching that resistance point. That was a 55% rejection. We saw the same thing near the range highs, so around actually right here, as you guys can see. So we did end up rejecting around, let's say, even not the highs, but that was also a 27% rejection. So right now, based on the weekly time frame, which we will go on to, it does look very likely that the stochastic here on the CME will also be able to break this resistance, and we will also be able to reclaim it. But there is definitely some profit taking going on here. So what I would be looking for is a break of this resistance that is, quite a historical resistance here, at least for, the past few months of price action. Not very historical here, but going back above this would also be acceptance into the bullish zone. So ultimately, that would be good for price action. And I'm focusing on the higher time frames because obviously that's what's going to give us those bigger trades. And the weekly has had a very nice push up here, another hammer candle with a gap to the upside. We do have a gap above us and a gap below us, but the weekly stochastic is what's interesting. And I spoke about this on the Sunday video and also on the Monday video. This is going to be very important. The stochastic on the next weekly closure is potentially crossing up. This is usually where we see our bottoms being formed in the market. If we do clean up the chart a little bit here, you guys can see that ultimately this was our lows here. So we are bottoming out inside of this region, but the last lows that we had in the critical zone was basically right at that $7,000 low. And also going back a little bit right here. So we can go ahead and get some percentages for this, but as you guys can see, so let's just get this region here. We can see that that was ultimately a 58% bounce to the upside. The one before that was, of course, in the $3,000 low. That was, history. If you guys have been trading Bitcoin for a while, that was a 355% move. And so ultimately, this has given us some very nice trading opportunities. Does not mean that it will be a reversal in place, right? Sometimes we could have a slight reversal in the price action and still come to the downside like we did here, 56% move to the upside, but ultimately that did continue down in the bearish market. Therefore, that's why we are looking at the horizontals as key resistance points. So we have our $42,435 level, which stopped us recently, back in May, as we just spoke about. And then if you wanted to be very conservative with this, you'd be looking at the weekly or the yearly R3 at $46,590. And that would be acceptance back into the all-time high range. And that's when we would be looking at a reversal in the price action based on the high time frames. So at that point, it would be a lot more confidence, giving you a lot more confidence behind this price action, getting reaccumulated inside of this region, and then moving to the upside. So very important to be watching that. The weekly stochastic is a good sign, a good temporary sign here, but it would need to come with a break of the critical regions. We've also spoken about the pivots that we have seen here. So the momentum indicator actually gave us a pivot on the last low, which is very important in the market. That is ultimately going to be at least a temporary bottom in the market. I mean, look at the all-time highs. This is when we got these pivots here on the momentum indicator, and this was our all-time highs really. So this is all lining up very, very well. We've already looked at the volatility index as well. So reclaims of those resistances is going to be extremely important. As for the very low time frames here, I would not like to see any closures if we go into our spot price action. Any closures back below around the $38,489 region, that is the daily pivot. So closing back below there, that would mean that we could make another move back down to this order block, in my personal opinion. So that's a very important support in the short term for me, where I would be watching for price action. And since I did welcome a pullback here, if you guys do remember, we said that we would do welcome a pullback since we've had a nice rise. But now pulling back here would not exactly be the best sign, because we've already set in a higher low, and therefore we would need to set in a higher high here to show some strength at the top of the range, because we're getting close to the top of the high time frame range. Therefore, we don't want to be coming back to the order block and breaking this structure, as we do have our last higher low right on that order block. So it's very important for the bulls to actually get continuation very, very soon. And we are coming up to, of course, our monthly closure. So we want to quickly look at that. I think the monthly looks ultimately quite good here. We already spoke last month about the indecision candle that we got here. So that is overall good for bulls because you do want to see, continuation sooner rather than later. But we have been ranging here for a while. So the bears are not completely out of it, but with that indecision candle that we got on the previous month, following with a strong closure here, which is going to be a very nice hammer candle on the price action, that's going to give us a nice region to be watching. So based on a monthly, taking out the wick high here from the previous month and the potential hammer candle coming in, that's going to be some bullish setups on the high time frames as well. So the picture that I'm trying to paint for you here is if you are not in long positions or if you've missed, multiple trades, there is no reason to kind of be getting in right at the end of the month unless you have, clear invalidation points and based on the high time frames, right? Because with the high time frames, you're going to have a lot of time to get into the market. Of course, not financial advice, but the way the high time frames work is they are going to provide some big moves. And with those big moves comes a lot of time to actually get in on high confluence areas and be able to get in on those trades. So the price action is not fully out of the woods yet, but based on the high time frames, it's starting to look better. So we'll come back to the monthly here towards the closure, which is actually this month is 31 days. So we'll come back to this in due time. Of course, the dollar index did have a nice move to the downside yesterday, giving us that more bullish momentum here this morning for Bitcoin moving to the upside. So I do like this indeed for Bitcoin. And I would like to see the dollar index stay below the 92.86 area. So yes, we had a rise yesterday, but what you want to see is actually a break above the weekly pivot, because if we are below it, generally on the shorter time frames here, we're going to be looking at it as a little bit of a bearish bias. Back above it is going to be a little bit better. So now moving on to quickly here our trades, as you guys do like to see those, and I do like to explain my thoughts behind those. So just going on to here, onto our Discord group, we can see that absolutely fantastic trades by DC here, by the way. Very good to see that you're looking for good risk rewards trades here. So that is awesome. Absolutely fantastic scalp positions here as well. But just the main trade that I've been in here is, of course, that long position that we spoke about. So the reclaim off the lower time frame resistance at $37,143. That is the entry, and closing sum at $39,050. And that is once again because we did see our order block, the critical region front ran. And so if I go ahead and put this on, the region that we spoke about for long positions front ran slightly. I did not get in there, but then once we saw that momentum come back into the upside, a little bit of a reaccumulation formation being formed here, and a reclaim off the weekly R2, which is exactly at $37,175, whereas our entry, $37,143. That is when I look to get in on those long positions, and it's been a nice ride thus far, and we're going to have to watch the lower time frames very closely because, yes, we are seeing some bearish divergences at the moment, but ultimately a reset off the oscillators is not, the end of the world, but I'd still like to see a break back above the highs to give us that next momentum drive to the upside. Now moving on to Link USD, and then we'll go on to the Ethereum charts as well. So Link USD looking good here, getting that bounce from the order block. But what we want to see here is still a reclaim off the critical resistance. So going back onto the 4-hour very quickly, actually. So I'm not sure why this is right here. This should be around this region, and then we can give this actually a little bit of a zone, right? And leave this on our charts. So the zone and the resistance that is very important for Chainlink, in my opinion, here is going to be around right here and here. So around $20.64 to $21.30. So getting back above there, that's ultimately going to be good for price action. I'd be looking for continuation moves up to around $26.20. As long as we are below there, that is not so good for price action. So creating a higher high here, that would give us nice probabilities to break this. Of course, as always, since we do have a critical swing high here, we can look for that swing failure pattern and we can look for the trading opportunity there based on the lower time frames. However, getting back above here and reclaiming this as support. So resistance, which we had over here, turning into support. That makes for some nice long positions. Once again, we have had multiple long positions come up on the link charts as we've had higher lows since we started to bounce to the upside, with very nice bounces, with very nice holds off the market structure, and also moves back to the pivots here, giving you those entries. However, right now we do face some resistance, so I wouldn't just be going long blindly here. I would just be waiting for example, the last move down we had, I spoke about Bitcoin being, welcoming a pullback, and then that would be the long opportunity. Chainlink also came down to the R1, the weekly R1, which gives you a long opportunity. So that's already a 13% move. So personally, the way I trade, I wouldn't be going long up here. I would be looking for a reclaim first, or even some short positions as scalps until I see that reclaim come in based on the lower time frame. So that's the region that I would be watching. The critical support now is the last high low that we created near the R1. So they're both in confluence. I'd be going off that. Around 1745 is where we want to see held for Chainlink. Then going on to Ethereum USD here, going on to our Coinbase chart, what we can see here is going to be that resistance that we spoke about. Of course, the resistance did stop us here. That was a critical resistance, so we can look for those failure swing patterns as well, which is around the 7th of July. So taking out those highs, closing back below, that gives you a very nice shorting opportunity, as that is a bearish setup. But we came down about 9.1% here. But I want you guys to actually look at the market structure here. So going on to the Discord very quickly, what I had said here was basically, if we do look at, basically, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, so what I had said here was, this is the yesterday at 4 p.m. Perfect spot for Ethereum to set in a higher low. Important that it does hold it, right? So since it is a perfect spot for it to set in a higher low, and since it is an important area for the price action to hold, that gives us a low risk buying opportunity. And that means that if we look at the market structure, which is most important after your supports and resistances, or even before, you're looking at the market structure here as bullish, right? Because every pullback here has been a higher low that has been held, and we came very close to the higher low that we set in on the 25th of July. So even though we did have a big dip to the downside, with the market structure sitting in another higher low, that is higher lows and higher highs still in the market, so we can look for that longing opportunity. And from these lows here, you could have either played it off the market structure, or just waited for the reclaim of the R1 here. Either way, we got a retest, so resistance turning into support, and that is a 7.4% bounce. So once again, I wouldn't be going in long into resistance. I would be waiting for these trading opportunities that we speak about every day to present themselves. So the next one here would be a reclaim of the resistance. The only way I would be holding longs is if I was already long from down here from the structure. And so yesterday, this is just absolutely perfect. As you can see, higher low, higher low, higher low, and we did set in the higher low. So ultimately, that is good for Ethereum. If you wanted to be very aggressive with this, you would look for a reclaim of the weekly R2, as that is exactly where price action did stop here, as you can see, and we did see a reaction from it. So a reclaim of the R2, let's say on a 4-hour time frame, or even a 1 hour, with momentum shifting up, that would be good. But let's take a look at the momentum very quickly. We have seen a rejection from the bearish control territory, so that's good for price action. But now what we need to see is actually a reclaim off the R2, and that would come with a reclaim off this moving average here on the RSI, and that would be a bounce on the momentum indicator. So you can see how important it is going to be for tonight's price action on all of these coins that we've looked at for continuation based on the overall market, and getting that continuation, getting some more bullish volume, that's going to be good. We're going to create higher highs, and if we are not able to do that, well, we look for those resets off the oscillators. We look for more trading opportunities lower inside the range. So the New York Stock Exchange open will once again be very important. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I do appreciate it. A little bit of a rush one here, but just getting it out for you all, as I do know that you guys like the consistency here. So I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you would like to join the private group, go ahead and send me a message on Discord. My username is down below in the description, at the top of the description. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I will catch you in tomorrow's one.